Over the course of the past day, Ukraine's defense forces repelled 8 Russian assaults near the city of Marinka in Donetsk Oblast. Russian forces also made unsuccessful attempts to advance on Ivanivske on the Bakhmut front, but were unsuccessful. Source: General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Facebook. Information is of 1800 on the 5th of June. Quote from the General Staff: over the course of the day, enemy forces conducted 1 missile strike and 19 airstrikes and deployed multiple launch rocket systems MLRS to conduct around 30 attacks on our troops' positions and on civilian settlements. Unfortunately, civilians sustained injuries, and infrastructure facilities were damaged. Details: there is no evidence that Russia is forming offensive units on the Volyn and Polishcha fronts, and the operational situation there remains much the same as before. The Republic of Belarus continues to support Russia's armed aggression, as Russian soldiers undergo training on Belarusian training grounds. On the Severshchina and Slobozhanshchina fronts, Russia continues to maintain its forces in areas near the Russian-Ukrainian border. Russian forces conducted airstrikes on areas in and around Ohertsev and Hadish, Kharkiv Oblast. They deployed mortars and artillery to fire on Seredina Buda, Baranivka, Bunyakine, Volfin, Kindrativka, Vlika Pisarivka, Shevchenkov and Oleksandrivka, Sumy Oblast, and Basov, Sotnitsky Kazakh, Hariv Kazakh, Yudi, Veterinarn, Vysoka Yarua, Libo, Lukiantsy, Staricha, Ohertsev, Hadish, Plitanivka, Vovchansk, Mykolaievka, Nestern, Budarki, Zarubinka, Shevyakivka and Odradna, Kharkiv Oblast. On the Kupiansk front, Russian forces deployed mortars and artillery to fire on Kolodyazne, Krasny Persh, Novomlinsk, Kutkivka, Vorokna, Zapadna, Kyslivka, Berestov, Kharkiv Oblast, and Novoselivsky, Luhansk Oblast. Russian forces conducted unsuccessful offensive operations near Bilohorivka, Luhansk Oblast, on the Lyman front. They conducted airstrikes on areas in and around Nevsky, Luhansk Oblast, and Spern, Donetsk Oblast, and shelled Nevsky and Bilohorivka, Luhansk Oblast, and Verkhnekamiansk, Torsky, Spern and Rozdalivka, Donetsk Oblast. On the Bakhmut front, Russian forces carried out assault operations in the vicinity of Ivanivske, but were unsuccessful. Russian aircraft struck areas in and around Teresk and Bila Hora, Donetsk Oblast. Vashukivka, Orikovo-Vasilivka, Kromov, Chasev Yar, Ivanivske, Stupochki, Bila Hora, Delivka and New York, Donetsk Oblast came under Russian fire. On the Avdiivka front, Russian forces conducted an unsuccessful offensive operation in the vicinity of Nevelski. They conducted airstrikes in the vicinity of Avdiivka, Donetsk Oblast, and shelled Avdiivka, Lastochkin, Severn, Pervomaysk, Karlivka and Nevelski, Donetsk Oblast. On the Marinka front, Ukraine's defense forces repelled all 8 Russian assaults near the city of Marinka. Russian forces also conducted an airstrike on Marinka and shelled Hostre, Georgivka, Marinka, Pobeda and Novomykhailivka, Donetsk Oblast. On the Shakhtarsk front, Russian aircraft struck an area near Vlika Novosilka. Russian forces also shelled Vuhledar, Novokranka, Vremivka and Prekostivka, Donetsk Oblast. Russian forces are on the defensive on the Zaporizhia and Kherson fronts. They conducted an airstrike in the vicinity of Berislav, Kherson Oblast, and shelled Berlatsky, Novosilka, Zelene Pol, Novopil and Temirivka, Donetsk Oblast, Olhaivsky, Poltavka, Malinivka, Puliaipol, Zaliznikny, Puliaipilsky, Charivny, Bilahiria, Malotokmichka, Novodanilivka, Preobrazhenka, Novoandriivka, Sherbaki, Stepov and Kamiansk, Zaporizhia Oblast, and Kozatsky, Mykilsky, Dniprovsky and the city of Kherson, Kherson Oblast. Over the course of today, Ukrainian aircraft carried out 18 airstrikes on areas where Russian military personnel were concentrated, and 2 on Russian anti-aircraft missile systems. Ukraine's defense forces downed a Russian reconnaissance drone. Units of Ukraine's rocket forces and artillery struck 2 Russian command posts, 10 clusters of Russian military personnel and equipment, an anti-aircraft missile system, an ammunition storage point, and 3 field artillery units. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces reported on June 5 that Russia has lost 210,350 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion, with an estimated 410 casualties on June 4. Russian troops unsuccessfully conducted offensive actions in 4 areas, General Staff. Russian invaders conducted unsuccessful offensive actions in the Lyman, Bakhmut and Avdiivka areas on Monday, June 5. In the Marinka sector, Ukraine's defense forces repelled all 8 enemy attacks. The press service of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine this in a daily update posted to Facebook, according to Ukrinform. Throughout the day, the enemy launched 1 missile strike and 19 airstrikes and carried out about 30 attacks using multiple launch rocket systems on the positions of our troops and populated areas. Unfortunately, in addition to the destroyed infrastructure, civilian casualties were also recorded. The probability of missile and airstrikes being launched across Ukraine remains high, the update says. It adds that the enemy continues to focus its main efforts on attempts to fully occupy the Luhansk and Donetsk regions, with 25 military engagements recorded throughout the day. In the Volyn and Polysha areas, the operational situation has not changed significantly, with no signs of the formation of offensive groups. Belarus continues to support Russia's armed aggression, with enemy units undergoing training on its training grounds. The enemy continues to maintain a military presence in the areas bordering Ukraine in the Suvershchina and Slobozhanshchina areas. During the day, the enemy carried out airstrikes outside Ohertsev and Hadish in the Kharkiv region. The enemy carried out mortar and artillery attacks on the settlements of Seredina Buda, Baranivka, Bunyakine, Balfin, Kindrativka, Vlika Pisarivka, Shevchenkov and Oleksandrivka in the Sumy region, as well as Baso, Sotnitsky Kazakok, Hariv Kazakok, Yudi, Veterinarn, Vysoka Yarua, Libo, Lukiantsi, Staricha, Ohertsev, Hadish, Plitanivka, Vovchansk, Mykolaievka, Nestern, Budarki, Zarubinka, Shevyakivka and Odradna in the Kharkiv region. On the Kupiansk axis, the settlements of Kolodyazne, Krasny Persh, Novomlinsk, Kutkivka, Vorokna, Zapadna, Kyslivka and Berestov in the Kharkiv region and Novoselivsky in the Luhansk region came under enemy artillery and mortar fire. In the Lyman area, the enemy conducted unsuccessful offensive actions outside Bilohorivka, Luhansk region. The enemy carried out airstrikes outside Nevsky in the Luhansk region and Spern in the Donetsk region. The settlements of Nevsky and Bilohorivka in the Luhansk region and Verkhniokamyansk, Torsky, Spern and Rozdalivka in the Donetsk region were hit by artillery fire. In the Bakhmut area, the enemy carried out unsuccessful offensive actions in the direction of Ivanivske. The enemy carried out airstrikes near Teresk and Bilahora in the Donetsk region. The settlements of Vashukivka, Orikovo-Vasilivka, Kromov, Chasev Yar, Ivanivsky, Stupochki, Bilahora, Dilivka and New York in the Donetsk region were hit by enemy artillery shelling. In addition, in the Avdiivka sector, the enemy made an unsuccessful offensive attempt near Nevelsky. The enemy carried out airstrikes outside Avdiivka, Donetsk region. The enemy carried out artillery shelling of the settlements of Novokolinov, Avdiivka, Lastochkin, Severn, Pervomaysk, Karlivka and Nevelsky in the Donetsk region. In the Marinka sector, Ukrainian defenders repelled all of the 8 enemy attacks near Marinka. At the same time, the enemy carried out airstrikes within the population center. The settlements of Hostre, Hiorhivka, Marinka, Hobida and Novomikhailivka in the Donetsk region were hit by artillery fire. In the Shakhtarsk area, the enemy launched an airstrike outside Vlika Novosilka. The enemy shelled the settlements of Vuhledar, Prekostivka, Novokranka and Vramivka in the Donetsk region.